Kaya a church ya into a dim room. You said you want me here coming for you, sir. Now you can't say a developed population so. That's a common that's so whole. I come I mean to know I don't know why agriculture, science based, technology based I come down. If you say GMO seeds na video, they now our nursing na video. Agriculture still remains dependent on natural rainfall. Sir. And you know where is the future of farming? So you say now about technology have one. I'm not near science. I do call you. And my researchers can say. Ebrevi baba enchakwa kuawo se na emi mu se ebe dani ebe hwiase ye di fidie na ebe ya ye di fidie enuanu a ye gbedi no ye bere lab ye di fidie na ebe dawfu na na ye no asase me de so say natural rainfall na so nfie climate control with the one yes climate control adventino ama ya for someone ajaguno tension tono di ama bae I don't know enti sa na ebe ko so dia e na e say fi we hu we you do no enti de kwa ko no lab e dia bro ti entutu for me for dia na she ya we ya o de so ni nsu anto mi so na ide ti be no lab the way lab ni pa be gina chinchin enti na no hormones and the diva we no graphic they are saying like 1990 26th April we so the request on cry aduane ama wo no but the we ba wo so ni fa na the mo de ase from cry the we o wani that the mo lab ah o de so mo ko obi akojo yire ko so di pan so go tell aduane mra wo e die ni bi sie 26th April 1990 graphic Washington. Two American entrepreneurs say they have developed a technique to give a chicken the chemical makeup of a fish in an effort to breed poultry that will help prevent heart disease. Baby, as of the bottom, we are tight. No, they are not that. Okay. I could. I say we have been able to create a chicken and an egg that look like a fish chemically, said Carl Schwartz, Mortontown, New York, computer consultant. Was it they have been able or to me a create a cocoa any kushia it is a fish in Subnam. How many chemicals like all the chemicals are created? The more can you say, and no ba na ba bo yakuma yari hoban. And you don't any of the free lab. Already now, hormone braised and yama. All creating hormone beer. Also, an interview of her. I want to be one food so okay. If you are hormone job, now free. If you are not the and I want people. Wow. If you look at yourself, if you lose yourself photo, you know how the territory, no job for no, go around the territory. Into my cocoa to say, I don't know. Agriculture no bad free assassination. And be looking and going into the future no. And be able to do no. You create a lab. Your second video. Assemble badabi. Right. Yeah, cocoa second video no lab grown food going into the future. Anya recap Africa of a poku dankwane of Israel and some who won't tibio baby of a basic we and come sorry them. Or see, hey, I say no, I'm now from Kubasi. Please tell grandpa to add me in their WhatsApp group. Thank you. Hey, grandpa, please, you need to post new videos on YouTube. Steven Nyaba Kata Nyaba Yabahania Sovia Mawai. Peter Touch was warned when he was opening people's eyes about the supplies of food and seeds during the apartheid in Jamaica and South Africa. Yusuf Obuasin on Sudiwe Ebaye was it great info, but the nose mask on Opoku down Kwamafu, don't let us hear his words well and clearly. Kindly remove it. Over commanding.
Oh, Africa. When so or say, please tell Israel teacher. Okay, tell the Israel teachers to take the mask off. Okay, tell the Israel teacher. Okay, to take the mask off for us, so that we can hear from him clearly. From Kwabena Mensa Ahia Medoma Alhaji Koko down. Alhaji Koko down. You. Ofayao, you and your guests are doing great work. Thank you. From Sotolo, Misidan, Techiman, Bro East, Arodiwi, Abaye. Young Quadra second video, you bet me the message number 0200421723, 0200421723. No one your text line, normal SMS on the bar. You back in kind amount. Your second video, lab growth food going into the future.
That in a not too distant future, farms near you may stop growing the wheat needed to make those laddus. What if I told you that farms may also stop growing rice? There may be no animal farms, no milk, no meat or eggs. You may also not be able to eat the fresh catch of the day from the oceans. So what will you eat? In a not too distant future, you and I will be eating lab-grown food, food grown in laboratories and factories. And I know you have a lot of questions. I do too. For starters, why do we need lab foods? What's the problem with the regular food we are eating? Will lab food even taste the same? Will it be good for our health? How will food be made in labs? And exactly how long into the future are we talking about? Will we then stop farming altogether? We'll try to answer all of these questions. Let me start by showing you some numbers. Do you see this? This is how fast our world's population is growing. Currently, there are 7.8 billion people living on this planet. Our population has tripled in 70 years. Not too long ago, in 1990, there were 5.3 billion of us. In 2015, the number jumped to 7.3 billion. By 2030, we will be 8.5 billion. By 2050, 9.7 billion. 9.7 billion. That's how many mouths we'll have to feed in less than 30 years from now. Demand for food will be up 60%. And we'll have to produce 50% more food to ensure everyone gets their meals. Currently, the world produces enough food to feed everyone on this planet, but the fact is fancy only on paper. The reality is, over 821 million people go hungry to bed every day. That's 2.5 times the population of the United States, going hungry every day. Every 10 seconds, a child dies from hunger. The food never makes it to her plate. Nearly 3.1 million children die of hunger-related causes every year. More than 99 million children under the age of 5 are undernourished and underweight. Some estimates say that we are already producing enough food to feed 10 billion people. But what's the use of it if we can't even feed the current population? What will we do when we have 10 billion mouths to feed? Well, here's where lab foods come in. They can be made quickly and literally anywhere on earth. Here's a question. Why turn to lab food at all? Why not try to ensure that farm food reaches every plate? You see, farm food is not sustainable. One, it is subject to climate risk. Every weather event affects our crops. When there is a drought, our crops fail. When it rains too much, our crops rot. There was a heat wave in California earlier this year, and now prices of canned tomatoes in the US are soaring. That's because California produces 90% of canned tomatoes in the US. There was drought and freezing weather in Brazil, and now coffee prices are rising the world over. So you get what I'm trying to say. Every time there's an extreme weather condition in Maharashtra, our onions cost more. We've all dealt with this. Point number 2, farming has an environmental cost. It pollutes the water, the air, it takes away forest land, animal habitat, and the much needed buffer between us and the animal kingdom. Number 3, animal farming is cruel. Let's face it, no matter how much we love nuggets, wings and bacon, we've got to agree that killing animals for our food comes with a serving of moral hiccups. Did you know 70 billion animals are killed each year just so that we can continue enjoying our roasts and steaks? Our demand for meat will soon outpace the supply of cows, pigs and chicken. What about crops? Do we want to continue exposing them to extreme weather and locust attacks? The question actually is not whether we want to, it is whether we can afford to. Can we afford to continue relying on conventional farming? Scientists say traditional agriculture will collapse in the next 2 to 3 decades because of climate change. So what do we do? Turn to lab food, perhaps. You can also call it farm-free food. How is it made? By cell culturing. Consider chicken. When farmed conventionally, chicken is caged, injected with hormones, fed unnatural food. The poor hen never sees a blade of grass or the light of the day and goes on to be culled. Now here's what happens when chicken is grown in a lab. Step 1, a muscle stem cell is extracted from a chicken. Step 2, it is then split into pieces. Step 3, the sample is immersed in a bioreactor full of broth. The broth has sugar, salts, proteins and vitamins. Step 4, the broth is kept in an oxygen-rich environment under regulated temperature. And voila, you have chicken ready in just 2 weeks. What's more, the process requires less water and less land. The jury, however, is still out on carbon emission. Experts say factories producing lab-grown meat must run on renewable energy if they want to leave a smaller carbon footprint compared to animal farming. As we speak, meat is not the only product being made in labs. There's coffee, lab-grown dairy, flour. A lot of this, of course, is under trial and will need regulatory approval before they can reach the market. Lab-grown meat has already reached the market. Singapore has become the first country to approve it. Do consumers approve of it? Does lab-grown food taste the same as farm food? Well, if made well, we are told it does. The world's first artificial beef burger was created in 2013. They said the meat was dry and dense, so scientists worked on it and tried to mimic the taste, smell and texture of traditional meat. Today, a lab-grown burger patty is very similar to a normal patty. Next question, is it safe? The meat made in a lab won't have the bacteria that contaminate conventional meat. But all of this does not mean that lab food is going to be 100% safe. Some experts are concerned about the hormones used to grow lab food. We still don't know how overexposure to these hormones will affect our health. Next question, will lab-grown food have enough nutrients? Well, this is where it takes the cake. First of all, it is highly customizable, and by that I mean the nutrient profile of food grown in a lab can be controlled. Let's again consider the example of meat. Too much consumption of red meat is not good for us. We all know this. It has been linked to heart diseases and diabetes. Why? Because red meat is high on saturated fat. But while growing red meat in a lab, scientists can adjust fat levels. They can also replace saturated fat with, say, omega-3, which is normally found in fish or flax seeds. So lab food will make it possible for you to eat steak with the goodness of seafood. Food grown on conventional farms, on the other hand, will soon run out of nutrients. A Harvard research shows that staple crops, when exposed to levels of carbon dioxide predicted for 2050, will lose up to 10% of their zinc, 5% of their iron, and 8% of their protein. So lab food will undoubtedly be a healthier alternative. Let's now talk money. How much will lab-grown food cost us? The answer to that depends on when you buy it. The 2013 hamburger was priced at $325,000. Today, a hamburger made of lab-grown meat costs nearly $11. That's down 30,000 times. Lab-grown food has already become cheaper. The trend is likely to continue going forward. Experts say in future, natural chicken will cost more than lab-grown chicken. Final question. How far into the future are we talking about? Lab-grown meat is already in the market, also lab-grown meat alternatives. Estimates say that by 2040, 30% of meat consumed will be lab-based. This is what the picture will look like less than 20 years from now. Lab food could help feed 10 billion people. A single muscle stem will be able to make enough meat for 80,000 hamburgers. So from where I'm sitting, lab-grown food looks like the future. But a lot needs to be done to make sure that this future is sustainable. First, we need to address the question of overexposure to hormones. We also need to guarantee that food labs will not use non-renewable energy. Here's something else. Millions need to consider alternative livelihood. Think about this. What will happen to those employed in the farming, animal husbandry or dairy industry? Governments will have to deliberate for farm-free food to become the future. The world will need to make difficult economic changes, difficult livelihood changes, and lifestyle changes. Well, will all of this be worth it? The story with livelihood changes.
You come from him. You be so yourself.
Before me.
Afa. This is the day you na man in Ghana movie.
Yeah, we don't know.
Because said okay, now we say video no. The headline is lab-grown food going into the future. But from video we hear no we say future no you're already in it too. Because all other countries Libya and they must start experiences are lab-grown food. na asase no kra ho na ye do so no kra na dan se na dia call laboratory ana na asase make e se de wasoma wo kra so nkoto aduane mra wa na onye aduane ma wo ye mu fu ada kan si ho yawo ofi
eni bua na ti he ye sa yididi anyi no enti ade na wo sua yi
ofi hey official of you free mu aba su bi kra no na mu
Mati. Mati. Yaw,
afa.
Ya ho video da video. O manu busi. Na
o jani ajaye.
Owo abi ada wo mu. Ye the black horse no.
Ebe.
Ewe we nti kwaku. Ewe official bye to the black horse. Now for Yanko. The next and the last horse.
Right.
Into Manus.
Yara da fa poku dan kwa ase ye poku tuntum the black horse wo Yohania DCM said ye kenkan edema mo no. Na ne de ho asem ewi. But the bottom line is ye kan nyina ne mama hu se ye wo sabre ma ekom enenne pongo tuntum ni bawi ase odi kunipa en mo video sa nkwara do do mu nya duani ndie ahokyere ni ade yan kase ma nu kra na ese won sase a yes as be de de dokra no ye hwe se ne kom no ede na eno na ya na manfo nti ase ni nyina ne se wo ba bia kweskoko ede akofa ba yen sa se di dua ni papa mi nya die no oma na boyen ti ekom no de abamze nya hu hwi o ye ko de bia di fo aboafo nkra tobra ye ba of Israel ebeto so abaye Fanto TV no so na mi o fa hini mo bona am fa scan ntum mo number no 0593639389 kan mo ade bi am pese extend program no mo fantum 0593639389 kitwa bia nsha mo piepia gudu wa e papa mo am send ne yedi mudini aseda nyina no na ba TV so na mo hunu na fe time no yetumi I extend no member of Israel ga todi aka no yedi nkomo ne beto aso
yo
ava
boko de
boko se prefo nantie tutu tata
olmai ama fo mu se ebe kra yakoda no
ye no wa ade yakoda se mpani fo ni so asa adwom no ye no wa yakoda wala kra se ka no so me se da ko be ka se bu ha se ma so le adwane
de bia ya me ka se mi kire ye chidifo no se obi a 40 years what shall I say we ne baba no say ne partner or solution to the problem
sir
aje enyansafo no mo hu say no asemo apenini ka no enye careful say the issue can say enyansafo ne sabe ejumufo de bu o de parables no good otu documents are yi ba o kan ho asem yale ena ya ebu be na wo kan ho asem no yale ebu be afofa fa say e normal
sir
ya na oko hospital ya areho hospital bi afa emu aye ma
obi ayare
drugs na ebenya fake doctor for omo so ba system no mu a omo ni lances so no omo operate omo a ni achi am for yale yale ya de bi a ya say ebi mo wo a obi ka yale wa sam kura kire wa asay okono otuetue waso
sir
na onyame nyamfom so yehu bi kura mpo no ye hwe echi impenefo minya be 100 years no a ya omo ye very active
pa
omo hodin hwe na mma na ye ba no ahodin ni ho endru bi eto bia ye bia e fa ma
dinga man power powder
emantie beje ahodin na ye djuma ya me ye contract ma waka sam no mo ye djuma
okay
ba ku bi for Mustafa the be akobo say ahamu awa kwa Mustafa but say ori bibi na ye djuma say ponkoro nse bia eye nchiwie na dako
say nchiwie bia nyinya
ba ko say boss Mustafa jo nyinya nchiwie o eye wi aba no really say no let me friend no staff class and day boss I na ma ho dey go for
oh I go hosem
to me wi na
wa charge
afa asɛm wɔ sɛ me werɛ mfi da me werɛ